a little government news. So talked about the government possibility of government shutdown. They have reached a stopgap agreement on a stopgap measure that will keep the government funded through December. I think it's December 9th. And then they'll have to come up with something else again. Like I said, but previously, I really did not think that this was going to go to the 9th at the late last minute because neither party. It's an election cycle. We have an election happening in less than 41 days or something like that. Neither party would want to be blamed for shutting down the government. It's just bad optics, right? Ted Cruz can bahoo all he wants to about how it's not real money lost, blah, blah, blah. But it just looks poor on who can actually govern. And Congress has such a abysmally low approval rating anyway. So they came to an agreement today to go ahead. Part of this funding, because as you guys may already know, Congress has been dragging its feet on funding for Flint, as well as on funding to combat the Zika virus. And I mean, they've been dragging, for months now on both, if not longer. And the funding measure had funding for the Zika virus, but it did not include anything for Flint. Republicans were like, yeah, we'll touch that later. So when I had last read, either first thing this morning or late last night, was that Democrats had actually threatened, when I first saw the shutdown, Democrats had actually threatened that, they would not support, all the Democrats, and I think it was 10 Republicans, voted against the stopgap measure in the Senate unless there was a provision for funding for Flint. As you guys know, as you should know, the Flint water crisis has been going on. I believe it's 2 years. When I did the math earlier today, I think it's been 2 years, 5 months, and like 4 days or something like that. 2 years, 5 months, 4 days without clean, potable, basic water. It's still not right. Over 2 years. And people, basic, this is a basic human right. Water is life. We see what's happening, the protests that have been going on out in North Dakota, the Dakota Access Pipeline. Water is life. It's not just, bless the maker and his waters. God throwing my little doom quote there. Water is vital. Like, unless you have gone without water, and not like, oh, boil water advisory, boil water for 24 hours, but like, unless you have not been able to use water at all, like, you cannot imagine not just the anxiety, the stress, the pressure. Like, it is hard raising a family, running a household on bottled water. I know I did it for several months when I lived in West Virginia prior to moving to Atlanta, Georgia, when we had the West Virginia water crisis after a chemical spill. And that pales in comparison to what families in Flint and there are many other impacted communities around the country. So with the government shutdown, I was as an employee, who would have been infected, I was a little like, oh, here we go again with these people. But I was, on the flip side, I was proud to see folks taking a stand to help people, right? Because this would have actually been something to help people, actually to get money to actually do something for Flint. Because Flint has been struggling. Hillary went there. It's like, oh, yes, I'm going to save you. Bernie went there and set up shop, and they all went there, and everybody talked and all this big talk, and still nothing has happened. President Obama flew in and hugged Little Miss Flint. Donald Trump went in there, and we've all seen it. If you have not seen the picture, you got to look it up. The picture of Little Miss Flint with Donald Trump. Poor baby. Look like an advertisement for stranger danger. But with the shutdown, there was a meager agreement reached. Democrats, they because they don't want to be blamed. They don't want to be blamed either. But at the same time, I was really hoping to see we really get some teeth in the real. But Flint has been basically set to languish and wait a little while longer. For the sake of compromise. I understand the purpose of compromise. I understand I understand logically why people make decisions and negotiate the way we do. I don't necessarily always like it because it's way past time for justice for Flint, Michigan. So if y'all know anyone out there from Flint, anyone who's been working and organizing in Flint, whatever, please send them our way or shoot me or Ben contact information, because this is I said it was an American, disgrace. Someone else said it was a human atrocity. It absolutely is, because like I said, water is crucial. Water is crucial. And the fact that, you don't know what might happen if you bathing your kids, and just bathing your kids, right? You don't know what might happen. You know what I'm saying? Like, can you imagine going to fix even if you're using a filter, if you can afford the fancy filters, right? Like, can you imagine think back to 2 years ago. Think back to when this really became a big issue that people were even aware of. You got moms making bottles for their babies, right? Mixing formula. You got people showering and bathing their children, right? You got kids making themselves, like my son did when we had the water crisis. You got kids making themselves hot cocoa after school or whatever on a Saturday morning or whatever. You got folks boiling. I mean, like, all of this stuff absolutely matters. And the powers that be, they so busy trying to save a nickel and a dime here and there. But look at the governor you got, right? Look at the governor. Look at these different Republican governors and these folks who are taking over our state houses and local level, policies. We got to do something to get these seats back in the hands of people who actually believe in legislating and leading and governing for the good of the people and not for the select private few who might make a few bucks here and there off of something. Because that's really what ends up happening there. You got a lot of situations where some company either didn't do something they were supposed to do, they wanted to cut corners and make some money, or you got some state bureaucrats someplace that's trying to cut corners. And that's a problem. So going forward, that's what we need to be thinking at going into 2020. We need people to be active and engaged. Democracy, paraphrasing Jesse Williams, democracy is not an act, it's a job. It's not just some amorphous concept that just exists. It's work. It's like a marriage. It's work. It takes time. It takes energy. It takes nurturing and care. It's struggle. You know what I'm saying? It might be blood, sweat, and tears, but it's worth it. And we work too damn hard to get here for folks to pull out the rug from underneath us. So yeah, that was, so the government shutdown has been avoided. I don't get furloughed. Other folks don't get furloughed. Yay, us. And it really actually is stressful. I had people saying to me before when we had the other shutdown, which was ushered in by Ted Cruz, part of the reason why I think he's a psychopath. Before, people were like, well, last time this happened, we got paid. The other infamous shutdown was back when Gingrich was Speaker of the House. I guess allegedly, story goes, he was upset because Bill Clinton snubbed him on Air Force One, allegedly. Then all of a sudden there was a shutdown. And it was over the holidays. It was over the Christmas and New Year's holiday, that time period. So it really messed a lot of people up. And they ended up getting the back pay and stuff, but that's still stressful. I was just talking, as we were preparing, to try and fill in for Ben tonight, I was just talking with some of my PA brothers. And what we were talking about is many families in America are, I think it's like 2 paychecks away from being homeless or something like that. Like despite the fact that we have people who are quote unquote middle class, we have a lot of hardworking families and people out there. A lot of people, missing a paycheck, let alone 2, is dire. It is so dire for our families and our communities. Even if you're not somebody with a family, if you're an older worker, it doesn't matter. Like people need their money when it's coming in. And some folks will be like, because we did get back pay, and people were like, well, you end up getting like vacation time. That's not vacation, because this is what you don't understand about a furlough, right? You get furloughed. You get no notice. You get like a day. You get no notice. And then if you were like what happened to us with my agency last year, we actually got recalled. So we got bumped up to essential employees. So we got recalled after I think like 6 days or something like that. So we had to work on an IOU. So we had to work on an IOU until they decided to pass a measure, because Congress, it's not automatic. Congress has to choose to pay us. Now, mind you, Congress, these assholes are essential workers. Ain't nothing essential about what the hell they've been doing. They have to vote to make themselves non-essential. They have to vote to not get paid. So if these jerks don't do their damn job and pass a budget, they have to then vote to make sure that they don't get paid during the shutdown. So you cause the problem, you instigate the situation, but you still get your money and I don't get mine. How does that make any damn sense? And they always attach the measure for defunding to some bill that nobody's actually going to pass. I mean, they crooked. They are so crooked. So we need to clean house, whether that's a brand new Congress or whatever folks need to do. We need to clean house, and we need to make sure, and no, that doesn't mean that the quote unquote good people in Congress get cleaned out too, but we do need to everybody needs to get put on notice. Either you get in line, you know what I'm saying, you be about the people, or your behind's gone. I mean, that's what's real.